What are we talking about today?
Today, Goo, we're talking about a new level of DC. Well, a mid-level of
It really
DCEU.
is. And you hate starting a podcast with that and saying that something is mid-level,
Yeah, it's
just
mid.
there.
Yeah,
It's going to
yeah.
be super forgettable. And
Right,
it
right.
didn't do great at the box office, so no one's really seen this.
Yeah, yeah. We are talking, of course, of Shazam: Fury of the Gods, the latest entry into the DC extended universe, Worlds of DC, whatever they were calling it. It is the 13th movie into the DCEU, 14th
Yeah.
entry overall, because that includes Peacemaker. Goo, this is a rated PG-13 action, adventure, and comedy with a runtime of 130 minutes. And I'll tell you, um, this movie isn't necessarily good. I didn't feel the 130. I actually thought it breezed by. 52% from the critics on Rotten Tomatoes, 88% from the audience. So the people that have gone and seen this have genuinely liked it. And I will say, as stupid as some of the things are in the movie, there is an underbelly to it, an undercurrent that's strong in terms of like message, family sort of stuff. It's charming, to steal a word you've been using. So there is some good here.
There is charm to it, just not as much as it needs.
Yeah, and I also think it's really hard to hate, all things considered, right? The spot it's in here before the very last DCEU movie, and the fact that they absolutely had to pull stuff from the story because couldn't use this or this is going to get used in the future. So all that considered, I think it's hard to hate the movie as
So the
well.
only way that I could see someone hating it is if they are out on superhero movies
Mm-hmm.
and they feel like this is just another mashed potato sandwich because there truly is nothing new here.
Yes, but that's only because the first Shazam movie did a
No, I
lot of
know,
this.
but I'll also say that it's not as stale as, say, like a Black Adam. Black
Yeah,
Adam was just a
right,
stale piece of
right.
bread.
Not as still as that, and not as incredibly dumb as Wonder Woman 1984. The
But it
villains,
does touch dumb things in this.
yeah, but the villains here aren't good, but the decisions made in this movie aren't as bad as they are in 1984. 1984 makes no sense from
No,
any angle.
everything in 1984 is puzzling.
Yeah,
Nothing
really,
makes sense in
really
that
bad.
movie.
And
But we love Pedro Pascal.
yeah, that's for damn sure. And he
Yeah.
actually that's probably the worst role I've seen him in
You know
my
what?
whole entire life.
I think if you put Pedro Pascal in Lucy Liu's role in this movie, that might have worked.
That'd be interesting. A little gender bending there.
I do have a note at the bottom saying that that's not going to work because that character, I'm not even going to blame her. Granted, she might not have been good, but the direction and the writing on that character was terrible.
I don't care for Lucy Liu. I don't know if it's just a me thing, but she was dead in the water to me anyways.
But I don't think anyone could have done that well.
Yeah, you're probably right about that. Synopsis, Goo. The film, and also worst synopsis in a while. Both Rotten Tomatoes and IMDb had an eerily similar one. The
That's
film
no one cares about this.
The film continues the story of teenage Billy Batson, who, upon reciting the magic word Shazam, is transformed into his adult superhero alter ego, Shazam.
That is the most generic Walmart thing possible.
That is a terrible synopsis of this movie. It doesn't actually tell you anything about the movie other than that it's a continuation of a prior story. Goo, this movie stars, and it's a long list for better or worse, Zachary Levi as Shazam. I thought he was better in the first one.
I thought he was a lot better in the first one. He really conveyed that childhood wonderment. I thought he was great doing that in the first one. This one, and it might have been direction, might have been writing, they just made it seem like he was dumber. Like he didn't have the wonderment. It was that he was stupid.
I also felt like at the end, those final scenes that we see him in, I felt like he actually nailed those. But up until then, I didn't think the emotional parts were very good.
You also made the point, and it was via text. We text that Billy is almost 18 in this, therefore not a child.
Yeah, so we'll get to that once I finish reading the cast here. It's bothering me as each day passes. Asher Angel as Billy Batson, who gets like 6 minutes of screen time.
He's barely in this one.
He's barely. Jack Dylan Grazer as Freddie Freeman, who becomes more of a central character in this one. Of course, he was more of a sidekick in the first one. Rachel Zegler, who we would know from West Side Story if you saw the remake, as Anthea, one of the three evil sisters.
That's a spoiler. She's Annie.
Grace Caroline Curry as Mary Bromfield. She also plays superhero Mary, which, going back to that point about Billy, doesn't make a lot of sense.
No.
Adam Brody as superhero Freddy. Ross Butler as superhero Eugene. DJ Catrona as superhero Pedro. Megan Good as superhero Darla. Megan Good, all-time great hottie. I would have her very high on my list if I had to rank every woman ever on that walked this earth. Lucy Liu as Calypso. Helen Mirren as Hespera. Jaimin Hunsu as Wizard. Faith Herman as Darla Dudley. That's the little version of Megan Good.
Oh, sorry. That was the mom. My bad. I'm wrong.
No, come on. Ian Chen as Eugene Choi, the little version of Ross Butler. Jovan Armand as Pedro Pena, the little version of DJ Catrona. And Goo, here's your woman. Here's my woman. Marta Milans as Rosa Vasquez. Sweet Hachimachi. Oh, I thought you had a point.
I'm scrolling. I have to move around a lot now.
Well, you were gonna bring her up before, but I didn't even say her, so it seemed like you had a point to be.
No, she was good. I liked her and the dad.
I
liked them more in the first one, but the dad had one of the better lines in this one.
But she seemed a little more sexual in this one, so I'll take her in this one.
They were in a bed at one point, just like the Bradys from the Brady Bunch.
Speaking of the dad, Cooper Andrews plays Victor Vasquez. So that's the cast. To get to the point that you brought up that I made, Goo, it is really fucking bothering me that in the first movie, Mary is 17 or 18, right? So she's given this power of Shazamming at the end of the movie, and she turns into herself, just in a leotard. So you would think here, with Billy and with Freddy, who are both now 17 and 18, their Shazamming versions should still be them. It stands to reason, right? And it's curious as to why they didn't have a more grown-up Mary in the first one. And
like
also,
an old lady.
Also, you run into a How I Met Your Mother thing here when you look pretty similar to the way you do at 17 or 18. So why is it sound drastically different? Why does it look drastically different? You know,
I thought you were going to say that in this one he should have transformed into Josh Radnor, and then just start complaining.
Should we just talk about the Chris Kattan episode of How I Met Your Mother?
Yes, but also the other Billy D. Please give me a Photoshop of Josh Radnor as Shazam.
And let me get this out of the way as well. As much as that, but really though, it makes no fucking sense that Billy and Freddy aren't themselves.
It's dumb. Yeah,
Shazammed up. I just want to say this, as we talked about it at the top. We want to get this out of the way before we talk bad about this movie. I certainly forgave some things in this movie because it was dead in the water. Right, this movie had no chance of being really good, and I feel like because of that, I'm not going to be as harsh on it as maybe we should be.
I'm also curious what was cut out from the movie.
Yeah, very curious to that. And also what we're saying right now, this disclaimer probably doesn't apply to the quote unquote critics reviewing this movie because they don't give a shit about that stuff.
They don't care.
And speaking of things cut out of this movie, there's no doubt in my mind that the original version of this movie, when they probably drafted it up in 19 or 20 when that first one came out, included Black Adam at some point
when it was
during
written. Yes.
Yeah.
I don't think that he ever agreed to be in it though.
Well, I don't think they ever thought that Black Adam movie was going to get made either. And I thought maybe they might bring him in and just in the Shazam universe. But him, and this is still spoiler free for a little bit. If he is in this movie, it unlocks certain things that they could have done. It also would make other plot points make more sense. And you could have had a much more satisfying, big fight conclusion to this whole thing.
Or you could have just not had Lucy Liu and her sisters in it and just had Black Adam.
Well, no,
it made it a completely different movie.
See, in my mind, you still have that aspect of it, but then it becomes a three-sided fight. Shazam, Black Adam, and those villains, right?
It would look like those dragons where the two of them are mean, and then the other one is Lucy Liu.
Yeah, it's like the Godzilla dragon there.
Yeah.
Whatever the hell that thing.
The Hydra?
Is that what it's called?
I think so.
I don't know. I don't know if that's correct.
I don't know mythological anything. So when they were talking about it in this movie, I was just saying, sure.
Mythological hero Achilles, which we'll get to at the bottom as well. The villains just aren't good in this movie. They're just dumb. And they even got a cool dragon and they still aren't cool. They also force a love story on us that's might be dumber than the villains.
You say the dragon actually was not bad, and I agree. And you know what? The CGI in this didn't look bad either. It was on par, if not a little bit better than the first one.
Yeah, and I think part of that is because the first one they like sort of intentionally made really dumb looking
which they kind of did in this one too, but
yeah.
they looked better.
Yeah, so I wasn't distracted by the CGI at all, so I guess credit to the makers of the movie. By the way, could you imagine animating this movie like 6 months ago knowing it's dead in the water and still trying to put your best effort forward?
Well, you
And
want
that's
to get
sort of what I'm
paid.
talking about, like forgiving some things in this movie.
I want to get paid.
The other thing that really bothers me about this movie, and you know, I could bring it up about many other movies, but this is especially has been a DC problem in this run of 13 movies. I'm so sick of the villain coming in from another dimension or another world and turning Earth into their world or dimension.
Yes.
I'm so sick of that, dude. It's like the laziest thing. It might be more lazy than mind control, and that's the laziest thing.
Is sky beams the most lazy?
Sky beams you can use in many different ways.
No,
Sky beams can
no more sky beams.
But we've seen this in DC already like 3 or 4 times before this movie. So that really didn't play up well at all.
But they didn't all want to do it.
Yeah. I got some nice things I want to say about the movie as well, but I'll let you get the bad things off your chest too.
All right. Once again, this movie is charming to not completely suck. Credit to them there. Once again, does not have the boyish childhood wonderment to it. But, Zachary Levi is still pretty good in this. He's still solid. It's just that he's a bit dumber and a bit less likable. He was more likable in the first one, too.
Yeah.
I did get 2 audible laughs. There were 2 really funny jokes in this. The first one was funnier. This one did have a couple chuckles, but consistently not as funny. And once again, the writing on Lucy Liu's character, I'm not even sure if you can blame her. The direction's terrible. The writing is terrible. I don't think anyone could have pulled this off.
That said about Lucy Liu, though, I feel like all those elements were present for Helen Mirren's character, and I thought she did a much better job.
But was it good?
I don't know if it was good. I can't claim that it's good. But to me, like Lucy Liu was demonstrably
I have no definitive
worse.
answer at this moment.
Gil, I agree though about the charm thing. It still had the Shazam charm, the family element there.
Yes.
There's some fun hijinks in there. I definitely laughed a few times. But it's just like a worse version, much worse version of the first movie.
Yeah.
And I have a hard time being mean because of the circumstances, but I also recognize that there's nothing to really get you to go to the theater with this movie, right?
Oh, absolutely not. I would never recommend for anyone to just, pay money and go to the theater for this. Also, if it weren't for the family dynamic, this thing is an absolute stinker.
Yes, for sure. It definitely carried the whole movie.
Fun factor, there was just enough, but there should be more.
Yeah, there's some fun in this movie. Some.
Saddest factor, not really.
There's a moment in the conclusion where I was pretty satisfied. And then something else happens.
Yeah, there was a moment, but then I said, wait a second, this should have happened. And we'll talk about that in a second.
Yeah.
Borometer, it wasn't boring per se.
No.
But does that make it, should it have been more boring to then have more peaks and valleys?
I think that's probably a Fast and Furious guy's job, right? Make this movie not boring. And it actually, like I said at the beginning, it was 200 or 130 minutes. Didn't feel like 2 hours and 10 minutes. It felt
it's
like
just
it was
consistently mid.
Yeah.
That's all. Halloween. Will this movie go down over time? Probably. It's super forgettable.
It already has a dog or two for me in the few days since I've seen it.
Aquator, is it better or worse than Aquaman? As of right now, for me, it is better. But like I said earlier, Aquaman has a couple memorable scenes.
That is true. I don't actually like anything in Aquaman, though, and I like some things.
Don't get me wrong. The scenes that I like in it are stupid. The submarine scene, him jumping out of the planes, redheads, am I right? And the octopus playing the drums.
I take that back. I do like redheads, so it gets one.
Am I right? Max Credit Union, where are you giving the credit to?
I don't know here. There's no real standout performance. I think if I had gun to my head, James gun to my head, Sean gun to my balls, I would give it to Dylan, what's his name? Jack Dylan Grazer for becoming more of a central character and doing it pretty well. I just hated the story that he was involved in.
Pants Tent City, Excite Bike Mania. Did anything in this movie get you going? And for me, Not really.
Outside of the mom in the bedroom, no, nothing really got me going. So I'd say it definitely lacks a pants tent. Although it was close to a pants tent in the third act. They almost did it.
For those of you tardy to the Mac and Goo party, we rate everything on a 40 hot dog rating system. And for me, Mac, with all I just said, good family dynamic and everything else either being mid, not boring, but not great, and Lucy Liu, not great, 28 hot dogs.
Yeah, I'm not. You've actually milled where I started and where I am now. When I left the theater, I thought to myself, that's a 29 dog movie, 29-ish. And I think after a few days removed, I'm sitting more 27. I think I could still be argued up a dog or down a dog as well. That could still change. But it's good enough to not be mad that you spent money on it, but it's also not good enough to tell someone to spend money on it, if that makes sense.
I'm also only 1 day removed from seeing it, so maybe tomorrow I'll also be at 27.
Yeah, quite possible. Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert! Goo, let's talk about the ending of this movie, because I think if they had nailed the ending, this would be up 2 or 3 dogs for me pretty easily. So this fell victim to one of the worst things.
Mac loves happy endings
in superhero movies. It is the hero actually sacrificing him or herself, or they self, whatever you want to go by, in a pretty decent scene. It's a good sacrifice. I was like, oh, they're actually fucking doing it. Not 5 minutes later, does he come back zombie style, breaks to the ground, and it's like nothing happened. In my mind, I was like, oh shit. And I was thinking about this as the movie was going on. Knowing that Shazam's done, this universe is done, it makes too much sense to kill off the hero. And that would be a great ending. But what ended up happening is you get this sort of Disney-ish ending, because I think with this whole family dynamic, it is geared a little more towards kids and families. So that was really, really disappointing to get that sort of blue balls of a bold ending, and then it immediately drawn back by none other than Wonder Woman also. So I knew she was going to be in this movie for like the last 2 months. This got kind of leaked on Twitter. It was incredibly lazy.
It was also in a trailer.
It was in the trailer the day of the movie, so they didn't show it until the movie was released. It was just incredibly lazy. But I also thought to myself, and I'm pretty convinced of this, the original version of this movie has Black Adam doing the Wonder Woman thing here, or at some point in the movie, to bring Shazam back. And that to me was what was going to unify Black Adam and Shazam, and they would fight against the villains. This, I'm sure, went under major rewrites because they're going to use Black Adam, and they're not using Shazam in general going forward. So I that bothered the shit out of me, but I also totally understand it. But if you want to talk about the definition of shoehorned, it's that first Wonder Woman scene in the dream, and then the end scene.
Like, I also thought for a second there, when he pops his hand up zombie style, that maybe Billy Batson is dead, and now it's only Shazam. There's no more Billy.
Yeah, I don't know enough to argue that that's possible.
But also, I don't love that, but I thought that might be a possibility.
Okay,
but
yeah.
When he sacrifices himself at the end, and he does that big old lightning strike, right?
Yeah.
When they found Billy, he should have been fried to a crisp.
Yeah, but he's also still simultaneously Shazam as he's unshazamming. I do get your point, though. That didn't bother me too much, but you're right. That he should have been a little more frazzled, that's for sure.
No, he should have been, cooked. He should have been black. That would have been alarming for the audience.
Yeah, that would have been not for families. But I think there's a version of this movie, especially at the very beginning when they first wrote it, that's actually pretty good. And it involves Shazam sacrificing himself and Black Adam bringing him back.
That's a possibility. I mean, Black Adam was definitely in it. If not a bigger part of the movie, definitely something in the post-credits.
Yeah, that's for sure. So again, that Wonder Woman stuff was really fucking stupid, but that's one of the things I'm sort of forgiving. The plot of this movie is really, really dumb. And I talked about it in the spoiler-free part. We have these 3 sisters that are out for redemption for their father, Atlas, and the wrongdoing of Atlas by the wizard, Jaimin Hansu, who stole the staff or took the staff from them and their family and used the magic of the staff to prevent these 3 witches or gods from coming into this realm. And that goes away when Shazam breaks the staff at the end of the first movie, which I didn't mind. That's a nice tie into the first movie, and that's a good way to get the plot going.
Yeah,
so
agreed.
I didn't mind that part with the staff, but the laziness of these wizards or these goddesses out for redemption to turn Earth into their realm is so fucking stupid. And then also The other like setup for the movie is we find out in the meantime between these two movies, all these Shazams, the whole Shazamily have been fighting crime in and around Philadelphia, and they've been dubbed the Philly Fiascos, as they tend to mess things up. Kind of like this. I kind of like the idea of kids messing up being heroes. That makes a lot of sense. So that I like that aspect, but it also makes you wonder, and this goes back to Mary still being Mary. There's clearly pictures and videos of her flying around. Someone's going to recognize Mary as one of the Shazams.
That's a very good point, actually.
It makes no fucking sense, especially her mom and dad. So, again, I liked a lot of that and a decent amount of the setup, but everything else after it was pretty stupid.
You also made the point that you did not like relationship in this movie.
So they shoehorn not only the Wonder Woman stuff, they force this relationship on you between Freddy and this gorgeous goddess named Anthea, who we get called. She calls herself Annie at the beginning of the movie. And it's fun in the first instance where she kind of takes to him in the hallway and he's like being bold. But then when they fall in love within 4 hours, what is that? 6 hours? It's fucking dumb. And young love's a thing, but that's like 12 years old love, not 18 years old. And she's also, 6,000 years old?
6,000 years old, which leads to one of my favorite jokes in the movie. After she says that she's 6,000 years old, and then she gives him a kiss, and the father goes, "This suddenly feels inappropriate."
Yeah, that was pretty good. The mom and dad being uncomfortable with all that shit was pretty good. And then
what's up with our sons being into older women? That was a dumb joke.
The other thing that really made me laugh, and I know some people aren't going to like it, but when they're storming through the city on the unicorns, and she says, "Taste the rainbow, motherfuckers," although it cuts off, I fucking cackled.
Okay,
that one really got me.
When they first got the unicorns and she fed them Skittles, I thought that was the dumbest shit ever. I thought that scene, I
didn't mind it.
I said, we are jumping the shark here. This is it. No more. But then she did redeem herself with Taste the Rainbow, motherfuckers. But it was just dumb that they were going through the town on unicorns. And what also pissed me off is that they introduce all of these like crazy, cool, interesting monsters. I know they're all from like Greek mythology and all that shit, but like they look pretty cool and we barely see them.
Yeah, it's true. We get like 2 scenes of them wrecking shit up, and each scene was like 30 seconds long.
They don't even show them fighting them. Like we get the unicorn horn through one of them, and that's it. Like they don't even fight the monsters.
Also, which I forgave, a really dumb thing is that all these monsters are terrified of these unicorns, and these unicorns happen to also be spawning. How does that work?
And also, the monsters are connected to the big bad. So once you kill the big bad, the monsters are gone.
Oh, was that a thing too?
Yeah.
I think they were connected maybe to the wizard or what's her face?
Big bad.
Yeah, Lucy Liu's character, I think.
Yeah, the tree, the big bad tree.
Oh, you think that? Oh, you might be right. You might be right about killing
the tree dies.
But once they hatched, I don't think they're attached to the tree anymore. Like,
I believe they are. They're no longer around. Where'd they go?
And you brought up, I think, which is your best point, via text after you watch it. It's like, does Anne just live with the family now?
Yeah, at the end of the movie, they're like, "So Anne, what are you gonna do?" She's like, "I'm just gonna hang out with this one. What's his name? Jeff." And she's like stroking his fingers and stuff, and the parents are like, "All right, cool."
Yeah, that's interesting. Like, because she has her powers back now too, so she doesn't need to live in this shitty, dilapidated home. So she can like probably build a pretty sweet home.
Well, no, the house is nice now because they all have powers again. Oh, hi, it's Goo from the Mac and Goo Movie Club. If you like what you just saw, you can find full episodes of our program on Apple Podcasts, TuneIn, Stitcher, CastBox, iHeartRadio, or wherever podcasts are found. And now it's time for girls jumping on trampolines.